So you guys really enjoyed the video that I made on Bliss's fills. Today I want to do another one of these artist deep dives and we're going to have a look at Deep Jungle Walk by Astrix. So what we're going to be talking about is how he takes all of the themes of the track and how he crosses over between them to make sure that his tracks become very memorable. So you can see here in the project setup what I've done is I've essentially just laid out the track and then I have noted down all of the different themes in there with different colors and then all of the transitions between those themes with all of the white spaces in between. Now, before diving into the deconstruction and actually starting to listen to all of the transitions and all of the different themes that he uses, I want to say that one of the reasons why his themes really work well is because he takes a long time to take specific themes that are very unique. This is something that is particularly true with Deep Jungle Walk. I'm sure that we're all familiar with the vocal that sits in the intro and the first part of the drop. I think we're all familiar with that vocal. I don't even need to play the track for you to have it in your mind what that vocal sounds like if you're at all familiar with his work. But this is not something that is exclusive to Deep Jungle Walk. This is something that I've noticed in a lot of his tracks, in that he spends a little bit of extra time taking the traditional sight and synth sounds or even other effects or one-shots or stuff like that and making them slightly more unique by some kind of processing or different ways of using them or different effects or whatever he uses. He just spends a little bit of extra time on each element, making them stand out and special. So you might think, oh no, if I want to emulate that, I need to spend a lot more time on my productions, but that's not really true because the time that he spends working on these details, he leaves out making more sounds for the track, because when you actually listen to the track, there's remarkably few sounds in there. And of course, the implication being here that if you spend a lot more time on the individual sounds, you need fewer sounds overall to make your track work. So let's dive into some actual themes here. I'm going to start off with the intro. Now, before I actually press play and let you listen to the intro, I do want to say that because I'm going to be playing this track here, I don't receive any money from it because I'm going to get a copyright claim on this track. That's very normal. That's just what happens when you feature somebody else's track, and there's nothing that I can do about that. If you do want to support the channel though and you want to see me making more of this kind of content, make sure that you check out my Patreon where you can support me so that allows me to make more of this kind of content. With that being said, you'll notice that at the start of the track, it's just going to be a very slow kind of vocal and ambient sound that really is going to transition well into the actual vocal sound that we probably all remember being in this track. Now you can probably immediately hear that there's care taken in all of these elements. The biggest giveaway is that it's all auto panning. It's panning from the left to the right in kind of a modulated sense. What I mean by modulated sense is that he's not manually panning it left, right, left, right, left, right, but he's probably put on some LFO on the panning of all of these elements, and it's just automatically going from the left to the right, just very slowly. Now I could have just placed the ambience in the track and leave it there without actually auto-panning it. There's no need for this sound to auto-pan or not. It just makes it more interesting if you do so. Now at this point we're going to transition into the second element, which is going to be this loop here, this iconic vocal loop. But in order to bridge that transition from all of these ambiances, which sounds very similar, we do need to have some kind of bridge between them. So that's where this flute is going to come in, which sits right here at the point where it's going to transition. Now you can already hear this vocal line coming in here slowly, but really where it starts to transition out of this ambience and into the actual vocal line itself is when the ambience itself is starting to turn down. One of the reasons why this transition works so well is because the flute has the same kind of panning effect as the ambience, so it will always be masking the ambience itself. If at this point the flute was to be completely mono or just not panning at all, what would happen is you would hear the flute in the middle and then the ambience would start to pan around it. That's not what we want for this transition. We want this transition to actually mask the sound that we're transitioning from, so that we can insert the new sounds that we're transitioning to. So then we go into the drop, and here iconically the vocal stays, and then right at the end here we need to start transitioning into the new element. And the new element that we're transitioning into is actually a very short element. It is this little arp here, but it has a very long delay, so I marked it up until kind of this point here, from which it starts to transition through a whole bunch of one-shots into the new section here where another new main lead starts to join the party. And again, one of the things that I noticed is that the vocal that he uses to transition out of the delay tail into the part where he can start to add one shots and that nice downlifting kind of effect, that very long effect that sits in this part here. What happens to that vocal is that it's sitting in the same frequency range as that delay tail. And I think that, again, that is done very deliberately. We can hear some of the other effects that are in here are fairly dark or fairly bright, but the vocal itself sits in the same kind of register, in the same kind of frequency range as the delay tail that we're transitioning from. And that is, again, in my opinion, so that it aids the transition itself. It really masks the old sound so that we can start going into the new sounds. Another thing that I noticed is that there is this kind of bandpass plug synth that is coming in here, that is preparing us for the synth that is eventually going to play here. But I do believe that it's a different sound. I think that right here the sound changes from whatever is happening in this fill here into the actual lead that is then playing in here. And notice again that also in this part here we have one main element and then a bunch of one-shots to complement that. He isn't playing 4 different sequences at the same time, it's just one sequence and then a few other background sounds that make the sequence more interesting over time. Now in reality, when I planned out this video, my point was to go through the whole track, but I think that I've explained all of the concepts that I wanted to explain quite well actually already. And I think it's more interesting for you guys, if you want to actually implement this strategy into your own productions, that you listen to the rest of the track yourself and try to find out all of the points where he's transitioning, all of the different main elements that he's using, and all of the supportive elements that he's using. Now, obviously, I don't expect you guys to just go through the track like this, like I've done with the project here, but that's actually a very good thing to do, to sometimes just look at one of your favorite tracks, lay out a kind of place where you can write maybe the theme. In this case, I've shown before that you can do a deconstruction exercise where you look at all of the individual elements that exist within the whole track. For those that remember that video, this is the project from that video. I basically explained, okay, you're going to look at where the kick is at, you're going to look, is there a reverse kick, you're going to look at all of the other drums that are in there, the different types of bass lines that are used, the different type of like sequences that are used, the different types of one-shots that are used. Here I have effects, here I have vocals. And if you want to, you can completely deconstruct a track like that. That's not what I'm asking here to do either. You can just listen to the track and actually hear all of those transitions and just make a mental note of what is actually happening in the track. Of course, if you really want to do this, you can actually do this as well. This is a great exercise as well. But for the specific thing that I was talking about today, that is not really necessary. It's a little bit overkill. With that being said, I am going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed this topic. Let me know if you did by leaving a like. And if you're new here and you want to see more of what I do, make sure that you're subscribed. Another good way to support the channel is to watch more of my videos, so I'll leave one in the end cards at the end of this one. But that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.
How much we allow our past experiences to define us.